So Vox Magazine is a small local city tabloid. We're published every Thursday. We're free in print and online. We're published by the Missourian. Our catchline is something new, something useful, something provocative. It's all completely student run. We cover everything news, music, art, and Columbia. And we do a lot in the digital space, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. So I think we've kind of tossed up the schedule a little bit, so we're going to talk about the website first. And then we're going to talk about a couple of success stories we've had, and then we're going to move into our social engagement. I didn't even do introductions. My name is Bryan. And first up to talk about the website, we have Laura Heck, who's the current deputy editor, and Justin Paprocki, a former digital managing editor. So,
fantastic. Cool. Thank you. Just to kind of start things off here. Oh no, I'm already screwing it up.
so just
oh, okay, there we go. All right. Do you have the old setup?
Yeah. We're going to bring up the old site so you guys can see how big of a difference our new one is.
So this is the old site. This is kind of what we started with, and basically what was in place since around 2006 or so, and what we were, or the folks there at Vox at the time, sort of served as their website for maybe 5 years or so, and after that, we started to get ideas. Maybe we should start to update it a little bit, make it a little fresher. So they started to get the process underway of creating a new site. So the idea behind that, like I said, is sort of reorganize the sort of design a little bit, make it a little cleaner. And a big thing too was sort of merging the sort of the Vox site and the Vox Talk site. Vox Talk being sort of the blog. The blog is always very popular, maybe a little easier to navigate than the other site. You know, how can we get these two things to kind of merge together into one site? So with this sort of sort of in the back of our heads here, Vox decided to kind of move forward on this. The design itself was actually done by someone, Mizzou grad, Kristen Kellogg. She designed the new site, and by was it fall, or what was it semester when we did that was spring of last, yeah, so last spring, the site was ready. All we had to do was merge most of the content from the old site to the new site. Laura and myself sort of headed up a team of sort of 3 other students, communicated with faculty about sort of moving the content over, testing the site, making sure that we were doing what we wanted it to do, and stuff like that. And it's about a semester's worth of work. And finally, it was able to sort of go live and sort of show it off to the public here. We used it's a WordPress site. And just to pull it up here, notice the difference. This is voxmagazine.com right now. You can notice sort of much different layout from what the previous site was. It's got sort of the home rotator here. It gives a good sort of focal point for the site when you pull it up. And notice sort of how the Vox Talk is merged with sort of the Vox magazine content on one site.
Yeah, so as Justin said, we just needed a site that was much more easy to work with, much more flexible to suit our needs. The old site was operated under the Django backend that the Missourian uses now, and our Vox Talk blog was operated under WordPress. And so it just, obviously WordPress is really easy to use, really easy to learn. When we have a new crop of students coming in every semester, we have to teach them how to use the site and make it the best that they can make it. It's important for us to have something that's pretty user-friendly. And so we transitioned everything from Django over to WordPress. And as Bryan mentioned earlier, in our mission statement, we say that Vox is something new, something useful, and something provocative, and we really wanted our site to show that. So we worked with Kristen, who designed the site, and a developer to try to determine how this new website could best fit our brand and how we could best fit the several different brands that we have, the blog, the print edition, the website. All of these operate with slightly different ideas in mind. So one of the first things that we did was to talk about how we wanted to present the different content areas online. So in print, we have departments and features, and the departments are News and Insight, which is obviously the more newsier section, The Scene, which is restaurants, nightlife, and general entertainment in Columbia, Music, which is the music scene, of course, and then Arts and Books, which is the art scene with galleries or fashion or anything like that. And we have a couple of odds and ends too. We have calendar, movie reviews, stuff like that. So we needed to think about how we wanted to present those content areas on our site. We didn't necessarily want to stick with the print format, so we came up with news, food and drink, arts and pop culture, and then magazine you'll see in that primary navigation bar. And then WordPress obviously is really nice because it allows us to change these hot topics that you see in the secondary nav bar. So, for example, when we do our true-false coverage, which is really extensive every year, we can put a direct link to the true-false coverage right there. And it really allows us to be that something new and useful for Columbia.
Just a couple cool features that the site has. That calendar, interactive calendar. You can sort of sort events by venue, type of events, if you're looking for fairs or music or dancing, something like that, cost, age. The restaurant guide is kind of similar as well. Pull it up here, search by cuisine, price, specialty. We've sort of broken it up on, a good place to go on a date, good place for brunch, gluten-free, and it automatically kind of sorts that for you.
And those are our two most used sections on our website, and they pretty much always have been. So these were really important. We spent a lot of time looking at these to make sure that they were still user-friendly and really accessible to all of our readers in Columbia, because we are a city magazine and we really wanted to serve them. And our analytics show that people turn to these two, the calendar and the restaurant guide, a lot. So we put a lot of time making sure that these were useful.
As you can see too, it is under one of the individual sections. Blog content is sort of folded in with the magazine content as well. So it's all sort of one sort of package here.
Yeah, we struggled with, like on the blog, it used to be when it was separate, the blog was updated daily, which was really nice because it keeps readers returning. But then on our magazine, we come out every Thursday. And so our site would only be updated once a week. So now that we've combined it, like Justin said, everything's folded together and it gives us a really nice, fresh looking type of feel,
yeah.
I guess. Okay, do we want to show some examples?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So we just want to show some examples of some of, and you guys will see a couple of the other ones, but some of the, do we have the millennial one? No, that's okay. We're going to pull it up. Okay, so we have, the new site allowed us a lot, like I said, a lot more flexibility in our design of our actual content, which is really great. So this actually won a design award at the S&D competition. So it was about why millennials don't vote. And so this design we were really proud of. And yeah, like I said, it won an award. And this much bigger field, we can go much wider. We can do, almost full bleed photos. We can do embed a lot more different things. The Django backend was pretty limited with like any type of coding or tools we wanted to use. Now WordPress is much more open. So that was nice. So like I said, this won an award. I don't think we'll be talking about this one in particular, but I just wanted to show y'all. And I think we have like one more second, so I'll show you guys some more. So this was another one that won award in print, but as you can see in online, we're able to do so much more with it and really make it live really well online. We also this was an example of a blog post or like a kind of on the fly post that we can do and we can still make look really good. And then this is an example of the type of, this healthcare issue was a really big one in print, and so it was easy for us online to create landing pages, and we had a lot more options in terms of how to organize the packages that we have in print, how to organize the content for online readers. So we've had a lot of fun coming up with new ways to do stuff online.
So in the fall of 2014, we do our annual reporter project. The project this year was inspired by William Least Heat Moon's Blue Highways project. He is from Missouri. A lot of people are familiar with his book. Was a big, huge New York Times bestseller. And so we thought, let's engage our students and get them out there on their own kind of Blue Highways adventure. This digital presentation, which you'll see here in a minute, won a Region 7 Mark of Excellence Award with the SPJ, which is fantastic. This is written, designed, and edited entirely by students with mobile and digital tools. We use a lot of new stuff, both in the field and in the office here. This also got an honorable mention for design in the SNDD conference. So here to talk about that, we have Jenna and Atiya. And Jenna was one of the reporters that was actually involved in reporting the project, going out there and doing it. And Atiya was the grad student, the digital editor involved in designing it. So.
Hello, everyone. What Laura said, that the new design really allowed us to experiment with a lot of tools. So when I started designing this, I knew that it would be extremely web-driven. So when the reporters, which Jenna will tell you about in a second, they started out reporting, they knew that they had to provide us with material that we could use for the overall web design. So this is the story map that we put together using elements of what these the reporters used on the social platforms. So it is embedded with tweets and SoundCloud clips and YouTube videos, which really plays into the discovery aspect, because they had to go out and find stories. And so this map helped us to create that idea of how it is like traveling around Missouri. Then, since they went to different regions of the state, that's how I wanted to create a table that helped to navigate whichever region you wanted to read about with. Because it was called Blue Highways, I wanted it to have that blue feel. I experimented with a couple of designs, like a yellow and blue theme, which really wasn't working. So in the end, we settled for something that was cleaner and looked more dynamic online. And so something that we struggled with was miscellaneous things that we needed a place to put on the landing page. So for that, I designed this map, which is a map of Missouri, and I designed this bar, which helps you to navigate to the miscellaneous items that they selected. And now Jenna will tell you about how they put it all together.
Okay, so the first step in the reporting process of this was really just to find out where we were going to go. We had 12 reporters working on this. We were in teams of 2. So there were 6 teams, and we needed to find 6 routes that would kind of form this grand circle around Columbia. So we spent about a month doing pre-reporting and research in order to find out which routes we would take. So once everyone had those established and had those in mind, we decided on 2 different travel dates. The first would be to go out and kind of get a lay of the land and see what we found and compile a list of sources. And the second would be to go actually get that content and to make it happen. And all the while, we would be documenting our travels on social media. So like Atiya said, Blue Highways had a really strong web presence, especially in the beginning when we were kind of live tweeting and Instagramming our experiences as they happened. We were gathering content for later publication, like with the story map, but we were also creating this kind of real-time experience for people following this. So people knew that this was happening, and the hype was kind of building up about it way before our actual publication date. And since we only really had 2 days to do the bulk of the reporting out there, it took a lot of preparation time in order to get the different multimedia elements the right way, which we see in the photos and videos that we included. So we spent about a week just familiarizing ourselves with the photo and video equipment before we ever even left Columbia, because if we got out there and we made a mistake or we missed something, we wouldn't really have an opportunity to go back and to get that extra B-roll or that clip or that audio that we needed, because all of our reporting was just happening so far from home base. Whenever we would arrive home from our reporting trips, we would kind of it would be like 10 or 11 at night. Our days were like 14-hour days out there. So we would just unload our memory cards onto our computers, and we would have hundreds of files to go through. We had photos, and we had video clips, and we had audio. So we would kind of go through, and we would pick the best from those. And then we would send those over to our digital editors, who would then go through and narrow that down and pick the best from our selections. And then they would send them back to us for review. So it was kind of just this, this process of working really closely together until we had something solid that we wanted to use. So then the final product, as you see, are these kind of combined narratives with these multimedia elements inserted. And we decided on this more narrative, different kind of storytelling approach because while we had originally set out to kind of uncover these towns that had been maybe overlooked or forgotten and see what they had to offer, a huge part of that became what they offered to us as reporters and what we gained and what we learned while we were out there. So this reflective first-person storytelling account was really the best way to do that. But when you have storytelling like that, it's really just a lot of words. And we couldn't have these just like huge walls of text out here. We had to have something to break it up. So we really had to have these strong multimedia elements in here to kind of draw the reader in and to keep them engaged and to make this a visually interesting story and to bring our Blue Highways to life.
This is where I'd like to say that the print and web worked really closely together because they needed to know exactly what the presentation would be like, so they were very careful about that as well, and not making it just print-driven.
And if you want to check it out, go to bit.ly/bluehighway. That'll take you to the landing page. So Vox Magazine, like any respectful digital publication, is on every digital social media platform you can imagine. If you search for us across all of these, you can find us, and we're really active on that. Everybody knows that social is really the way to go. You can't just make things and wait for people to come. You've got to push it. And we do that on all of our platforms. And here to talk about some of the experience we've done, a lot of the success we've had, and a lot of the engagement we've done, we've got Dan and Christine. So.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, guys. I'm Dan. I'm one of the digital editors at Vox Magazine. And I'm going to talk a little bit about using social media as a reporting tool. And so in a lot of cases, we just think of social as a way to get our content out more effectively on Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. But what we've been trying to do this semester is use our Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, whatever audiences, to bring them into our reporting pre-publication so that we get that audience interaction before we actually put the story out there. So one of the first instances where we did that was with the Antler Antics story. So if you don't know who the Antlers are, they're Mizzou's super crazy nuts, colorful basketball cheering section. And so we thought that since they have all this folklore surrounding them at the university, that there would be a good opportunity to include those audience reactions to them as an organization in the reporting that we did. So this one was very simple because it was really just it was one post on Twitter, and we just asked our Twitter audience. We said, "What are some crazy things that you've heard about the Antlers?" And we got a way bigger reaction than we ever would have even thought. Let me find this on here. We made a storify of the reactions on our page where we posted the story. These are only some of them. These are the edited PG-13 ones. But you get to see that all these people who, whether they're alums or they're just from around Columbia or whatever, they really wanted to engage with the story and say, this is what I heard about the Antlers because I think that they're nuts, or however they felt about them. And so we were able to use this not only online, but when we ran the story in print, we ran a sidebar of the Antlers' urban legends. And so that was a cool way for us to bring our audience in and say, hey, tell us what you think about what we're making, and then we can include you in our reporting. And so that way, also you'd hope that these people would come and read the story now that they've already helped contribute to it once it came out. And then our next one was a slightly larger endeavor, and that is our Como Cup story. So we had a writer working on a story about all of the cups in Columbia bars and restaurants and where they come from, what people are using them for. We wanted to know so much about the cups. We wanted to know where in the world they are now, like where are these people with their cups and all these things. So we decided that the best way to aggregate a lot of this reporting would be to run a social media campaign. So in order to do the social media campaign, we wanted to expand our social reach as much as possible, because right now Vox has about 5,000 followers, which is over 1,000 up, I believe, from where we were last year, but not quite enough for what we wanted to get done. So I went ahead and partnered with businesses like Shakespeare's and Campus Bar and Grill and the Mizzou Alumni Association. So we really wanted to get all these other local organizations in on the ground floor of our operation. And so once we did that, we just got the posts out there as often as we could. And you can see, like, for instance, Shakespeare's posted it on their page, and we got a lot of interaction there. And so eventually, once we got all these pictures and we said, hey, show us your cups and like what you're doing with them. And so we started putting those in a Facebook album on our page. And so now I think we ended up with about 16 pictures that we ended up using on the story for digital and in print. So not only did these people come in and contribute content via social media to our finished product, they also became sources, because we took their contact information from social media and we were able to go ask them other questions. Like, we could figure out where they were with the cups, or how they got the cups, or what they were using them for. And that contributed a lot of content to our final product that we never would have had had we just done traditional reporting and used only a handful of sources. So those were just two instances this semester, at least, where we really wanted to use our audience and kind of bring them into our reporting before we actually push the story out. Because as it turns out, people are really interested in the things that we're doing, so long as that we make them interactive in a way that it gets people to want to come in and contribute to our content before we put it out. And Christine is going to talk about post-publication.
I totally am. I'm Christine, and I'm also a digital editor over at Vox. And I'm going to tell you guys about a couple of cases here. The first one being with this story, Wren's Prison, which I conveniently also wrote. So this story came about from a group of people in a Facebook group called Old, Abandoned, and Interesting Places in Missouri. And they take a lot of pictures. They do a little bit of light breaking and entering. But they have a lot of really interesting conversations about these places, and they're a very dedicated group of people. And so, knowing that I had this group of people sort of in my back pocket, I wanted to make sure this got back to them and that they could have the conversations that they normally would around my content. So this is a screenshot from our Google Analytics from April 2nd, and the story had been online about 24 hours, and it was doing well. It had, close to 1,100 views. And then this is 24 hours later. After I'd posted in this group, let these people talk about it, let them like it, let them share it, and have these conversations, take it to other people they knew would be interested. And the last point where I couldn't see it, it had 85 shares from that page, and they were on to other ones. This is the post I put on that page. And as you can see, I've sort of addressed them, told them what I'm doing. You can see the likes and comments down there on the bottom. And they just sort of took it and ran with it. For a while, I was interacting with these people, having conversations about the content. But after a little bit, you just sort of have to let them do the work for you. And they started talking about this, and there were people that came out of the woodwork that had worked here and suddenly knew everything that I super wish would have come out when I was writing it, but it was really nice later on as well. So if you look up at these numbers, you'll see the top one with 14,000 plus views is our mobile Facebook. We're getting so much traffic now from our social that it's just trumping our direct, our searches. Ooh, sorry, boot issues. Trumping our direct and our search traffic by so much because we're getting people talking, we're having those conversations, we're being provocative, back to that mission statement. And it's starting conversations that are important and that get our content to the people that need to see it. We identify stakeholders in the beginning of stories to sort of get these sources, but a lot of times we forget to bring it back to them afterwards. And having that sort of full life cycle of a story is good for our readers, it's bringing them content they want, and it's good for us, because it brings them to us, and it trumps the Facebook algorithm and lets people see our things, which is always great. And that's obviously a large-scale example. That's 20,000 plus views in a couple of weeks. It's extreme, but you can do it on a much smaller scale with our basic department content. This is a story that went up the same day. It's about a Chinese board game. It's interesting, it's fairly short, and it didn't get much traffic. It got, do I have the number? Yeah, it got 99 views in 2 weeks, which is not great, if we're being honest. And one day after I had sort of had this experience with Reynolds and was a little more, and was interested in this sort of conversation post-publication that people were having, and I wondered if I could replicate that at all. And so I posted it on a group page, and this is for the week, but in 24 hours after that, the page views were about 250 times higher, because that's excluding those first 2 weeks of publication. So it's not always going to be 20,000 people talking about your story, but it's people who are invested and who want to talk about it, who are going to take that traffic, boost that, take your story, give it to other people who are just as interested, and get people seeing the content that we work hard to produce, which is always nice. And I guess the takeaway really is that if you find the people that are invested, they will invest in you, and that's good for everyone all around. So I'm done with my spiel. Back to you.
Yeah, that's all we've got. So I think we've got like 2 minutes left here. We can take some questions if anyone's interested.
I'll ask one. Great job with the redesign, obviously, and the various stories you've been able to tell through it. I'm curious if you'd say just a little bit about where you are in the evolution of Vox's mobile strategy. How do you make this content translate to iPad or to tablets and phones generally?
I would implore you to go and check out our iPad app. I'd love to get that back in here next year. It continues to win awards. We have an amazing iPad team. We're pitching stuff exclusively for the iPad. It looks amazing. It's free in the store. You can go and find it. It's really great stuff. Our mobile strategy, we continue to evolve. When the site was originally redesigned, and technology changes so fast, it was difficult and out of our budget to plan for a responsive site. Now that we see this happening, that we see this traffic coming through mobile, it's time for us to step back and say, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond to this? I think it's a case of looking where your readers are coming from and how they're interacting with your content. And that's really what brought us to Facebook really heavily. A lot of our stuff came through Facebook. We stay there, we talk there, we have conversations with people, and we put our efforts, we follow the readers, and we stay where they are. So.
Do you have a ballpark sense of how much of your content is digital only?
Let's see. So digital only, we post at least one blog a day. At least two a day.
I would say 2/3.
Yeah.
2/3 is digital only.
Mm-hmm.
And so have you got to the point now where you're thinking, where you come up with an idea and the first stop is this a tablet? Is this a mobile idea, or is this a print idea, or is this?
This is kind of one of the semesters where we really stop and we say, okay, editors, when you're coming up with things, it's not just let's run with the magazine anymore. This is a time where we say, through the entire reporting process from pitch to presentation, what platform is it going to live on? How can you tell the story the best? There are stories out there that we published today that they're working on right now over there, that this is how the editors through the entire process say, this is how it's going to look on the web. This is what we're going to do in print. We need to get this extra content for iPad. We need to have this proof for the website. It's definitely a part of our workflow, and that's really challenging. It's kind of a step away from a lot of what they look at in the industry, a lot of what people have said. This is how magazines work. But, they're young. They're technologically innovative. People pick this stuff up and they run with it, and they love the idea. And when you empower people to say, pick the platform that tells the best story, they realize, wow, like it's not just words on a page anymore. I can get this crazy video, I can get this audio, and people get really excited and run with it. So
I would say it is definitely our big. Oh, All right. It is kind of one of our challenges because, I mean, the way that Vox is set up, we have, I was just sitting here counting, we have an editing class, a reporter class, and a design class that work on the print components. We have one web class that's part-time. You know, like the other classes, like they're pretty much invested, and the editing class, it's a capstone. People know that it's a lot of time and energy like that they need to dedicate to Vox, the print edition. So that is definitely an area that where we struggle, and a lot of our faculty and TA support is, you know, more geared towards the print stuff. So it's people like Bryan and our, you know, really inspired and inspiring digital editors who are in the Magazines Across Platforms class who have been able to you know, help us evolve even further in the digital side while we're still kind of set up to be keeping this like amazing print machine going. So it's definitely an area where we are constantly trying to think about, like Bryan said.
I'd just like to add here, even when I was a digital editor last semester, so we had to think of components. So I was arts and books, and it's really hard to get people excited to like about books and things. So like we would design quizzes that would go online. So that was a huge part of the process about just learning how to write a quiz. Like how does BuzzFeed do it? How does, you know? So that's something that we worked on. We got the Playbuzz app to embed in our website. So that was a huge step, and it helped with creating more interactive content.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thanks, Vox team. We appreciate it very much.